How do you feel about all of this?
A bit weird.
Because, I mean, you know, back in the good old days, an interview with the enemy was in a pub. And then you get drunk, and if you got on, you go and whatever, you know what I mean? But it was always like that. It was no other way, that no pun intended.
Hello, you're watching Enemy. We're here with Paul and Damon from The Good, The Bad and The Queen. So we're in Somerset House, which is a big fancy venue in London.
It is now, am I just, as I very often am, deluded in thinking that this was the old tax house?
I think it might have been.
Inland Revenue, Somerset House.
Yeah, I think
from the 70s. I assume.
Government offices.
I just seem to remember that Inland Revenue envelopes. Somerset House was on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it was reduced to an office down the side at the time, temporary, and then they moved the Courthold Institute Museum Art Gallery to this location.
Yeah, that was later, but I'm saying before that.
Before that, I think.
Well, I was right. I'm not imagining that.
No, I think you're right.
So
there you go. So
we're a bit more rock and roll these days, and you're both musicians who are really sort of associated with London. So I wonder, when you sort of do play shows here, is there a different energy than when you play shows elsewhere in the country? Like, does it always kind of feel like a bit of a homecoming show?
I don't know. I mean, I think they are all such different experiences with different. I mean, some of the first gigs you play in your hometown are ones that will never leave you. Yeah. You know, when we played the Hammersmith Palais, that was very memorable. When we played Tower of London, that was very memorable. When we played the Tabernacle, that was interesting. And when we played Wilton
Theatre,
and we played Earth, which was, you know, not sure about the name, but the venue.
The place in Hackney.
Yeah, that's fantastic, beautiful place. And then we played the Palladium, which was absolutely.
So quite a list of memorable places.
That was kind of the beginning of the euphoric. Well, we had it at the first gig we did on Blackpool Pier. I think that was euphoric. But the weird thing is, we've been travelling around Europe doing festivals and our own gigs, and it's can't believe the response. I mean, it's just almost. No, I think it's not almost. It's on a par, if not more, than the reaction we've had here. Apart from though we haven't played it much, that's the thing, so I'm reluctant to say that.
When you say here, do you mean London specifically or the UK?
No, just London's been... I just think the subject matter of the record maybe is quite, you know, people don't go, oh, I'm going to run out of the house and go to that, because I know what, I mean, I know what's coming. It's quite demanding in a way.
Right.
But it's not. That's the thing. The point is, that's not how it feels now, does it? I think it feels. It's fun, isn't it? I mean, it's a laugh. It's like a tale.
Well, and the story that you're telling is you kind of. I know you've talked about how you travel around England and kind of took the temperature of the country with this record. Yeah. So is there any? Yeah,
no, but I think the sort of realisation that we do live in Maryland, in our, you know what I mean? There's definitely, it's a very bizarre time to be living in.
Well, what is Maryland?
Well, it's sort of, I mean, it could be a combination of possibilities or ideas. One is Merryland, which is, as you know, it's like a traditional concept of an imaginary England, like with Robin Hood and all that sort of stuff, and people dancing around the maypole and, you know, sort of stuff like that. Or then it's Merryland, but it's maybe not so Merryland.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's an allegory to a sort of slightly sad feeling that I guess in it can't kind of seem to, like a cold, can't seem to sort of get rid of. I keep trying to get rid of it, but it just keeps coming back, you know.
Right, okay, yeah. And what is Doggerland?
Well, Doggerland...
It's a place in between the shores of the southern shores of, sort of, I suppose, the eastern side of Britain.
Kind of Newcastle down to like East Anglia.
Yeah, that's it. And going all the way towards the northern coast of Holland and Germany and Denmark. That
Belgium.
was a place called Doggerland.
Yeah, but where people, there were mass migrations. That's how the first migration started to what became the island of England. It was totally connected to Europe. Ice Age.
Right,
End of,
olden time.
End of Doggerland was no longer. But the point is that we are part of Europe.
Yeah, right.
Physically,
yes.
Yeah.
So did that kind of play into the record at all?
Yeah.
In what way? And just in forming this idea?
It's like on a physical.
Yeah, it's that reference.
At a physical level, we are Europeans.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
But some people don't think that.
Well, the origin of everybody is possibly from Europe and many other places.
But you look at that feeling, and then look at the basic endorsement of if you don't like it here, you can go home mentality, which has echoed again by Donald Trump in quite the most unreasonable way I think you could ever imagine, especially to the senator whose family were originally dragged over in irons and beaten and raped, to tell them that then if they don't like this country they can go back home is just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable, and yet we laugh these things off, and so we all live in Merryland because we're always just ignoring shit and laughing about it. You know, but then there's the love. There's the allegory to love. It's an allegory to love as well.
Yeah.
You know, all everywhere in the record, and that's what kind of saves it as an emotional thing.
But behind the Donald Trump and the Boris Johnson, all that stuff, yeah, people we all laugh at it, but unfortunately, I think there's actually quite a sinister side behind that.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what we have to worry about. And the laughing is sort of a smokescreen of something darker.
Yeah, well, in Merryland, you know, you talk about that whole thing of kind of figures who are part of the elite purporting to speak for sort of the working classes.
Well, that was a shock to me. The Jacob Rees-Mogg Northeast Blackpool triumvirate was...
how do you mean?
Well, I'm just being geometric about things.
Just being geometric about it, right, yeah.
Slightly classical. But going back to Pythagoras.
It's sort of the fact that Boris Johnson's going to be the next Prime Minister, the nadir of that phenomenon.
No, not the nadir, but definitely one of the many heads of the beast.
And how do you tackle that?
What do you do with any multi-headed beast?
Just one at a time.
I don't know. I mean, talk to its many parts.
Yeah, and this is the thing that you talked about this thing of people not really talking to each other. And maybe
Get
that's
lots of people to talk to each, catch the attention of each head in a specific way, and then get them to tell them something so interesting that they lean over and then to where the other one is, and then they go underneath because the person that's telling them is going off, and then they all end up in a big knot.
Big knot, like a Gordian knot.
That could work. That could work.
So is that what you're trying to do with Merryland? You know, it's an entertaining spectacle.
Merryland is a tale. It's a tale, an allegory of a place which sort of is in some ways recognisable as home, but is also very strange.
Yeah, you might be the only band that have opened a Glastonbury set with the Canterbury Tales.
Well, I think we are, ever. Well, actually, and the Welsh Choir as well.
It seems extraordinary, but there's never been a Welsh choir at Glastonbury. I'd love to find out whether that's true or not. Because if that is true, that's kind of what we're talking about. You know, the wrong question was asked, because the real issue is us all communicating and sharing each other's cultures. Do we want to do that? Yes or no?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and you've talked before about how it's kind of difficult sometimes to talk about the UK and to be kind of not patriotic, but positive about it because there are negative connotations with that. It can be misconstrued as flag waving.
I know what you're saying, but I think genuinely we, you know, this is where we're from. We can't. It's our language.
Right. Yeah. But so you don't feel like you have to have like eyes in the back of your head so it doesn't sort of accident, you know, so it can't be misconstrued as something that it's not.
What, being the skinhead and being the bookish?
I think it depends on your outlook. I mean,
Evening gown.
if you've got sort of a twisted outlook, then you're going to pick up on sort of negative things. But if you've got a positive outlook, you're just going to sort of sing praises about the positive things of this country that have happened from way the past, Windrush, all these sort of elements have enriched our country. And, you know, even little things sort of quite interesting. When you travel down towards Canterbury, there's a route that the Crusaders all took to head towards Palestine. And then quite a few of the Moors came back, and then so you've got a place called the Saracen's Head, or even the English Civil War, you've got a place called the King's Head or the Royal Oak. They're all connected, and that's sort of, I find that quite fascinating.
You know, and it just goes, the Huguenots, for example, people were the first kind of sort of diaspora to come into the East End of London. They had to leave partly because they were Protestants and obviously didn't share Catholicism with their fellow Frenchmen, but they were also like trying to burn down cities and stuff. So, you know, they weren't exactly. This is the point. We're like, from one perspective, someone looks like an aggressor. From another, they look like a victim, and vice versa. And so, really, the truth of it is that we should all be educated and understand each other. And because, you know, the one thing that we do have in this country is a sense of fairness. I mean, common sense and fairness. We do. That is, I would say, something that, you know, I'm proud of being English. And I thought that we got rid of all of that other stuff through, you know, through the frame of people like Paul and Terry Hall. I grew up thinking, that's over.
Right.
You know, I love my country.
I think a lot of people did.
The day after that referendum, it was like, because I mean, you know, it's never disappeared, but it was never tolerated.
Yes.
After that, there was immediately a mandate to tolerate that kind of, well, if you don't like it here, you can fuck off attitude, which just keeps amplifying and amplifying and amplifying. And yet again, we see it again. And
with Trump, you mean?
Yeah. So this is like, this is something, as you say, that cannot be tolerated, because what it implies is that everyone is not equal. And once you start going, you know, we've been down that road many times before, and nothing good of it has ever happened. So why even in a supposedly ha way allow it?
In terms of sort of like talking to each other, there's this trend that's emerged of polarising figures like Tommy Robinson and Nigel Farage getting milkshaked. You've seen this, where people like throw a milkshake at them and it goes on Twitter.
Yeah.
Is that a mature approach to politics?
No.
Next question.
No, it's funny.
But maybe people are frustrated that they can't have their voice heard, and that's why they do that.
Are you familiar with the political party For Britain?
Pardon?
A political party called For Britain, who are like a sort of right-wing party. Anyway, Morrissey's come out in support of them, and I wondered if you were surprised to see that at all.
Well, I mean, you know.
But does Morrissey live in England?
Stephen is a complicated soul.
But does he live in England?
No.
I don't know.
Because I think sometimes if you are away and you don't live in the country...
He lives in California.
Then you've got a misconception.
He doesn't care. He's just doing to wind people up.
But then you've got a misconception of how the country really is from the ground up.
Yeah.
Same as John Lydon, you know, he's sort of got certain and he's
Views.
valid to his views, you know.
Yeah,
that's
no,
fine.
of course.
But the thing is, if you don't live here, then your vision of it's like a
I
bubble.
totally agree. You shouldn't even have a thing. If you don't live in the country, then it's politics. You shouldn't be dabbling in its politics, because to have the sensitivity to understand, you have to live amongst the emotional world of the people as well, not just the ideological, you know, like the idea of something.
Right, yeah. So it's 40 years since London Calling and 25 years since Parklife. And similar sort of ideas recurring there. It's kind of as if they're being revisited. And there's a good bit in the Clash documentary, West Way to the World, where Joe Strummer is kind of looking back at, got the quote, looking back at what the Clash stood for. And he says, "We weren't Little Englanders, at least we had the suss to embrace what we were presented with, the world in all its weird varieties." And I wondered if Paul, you had any idea what he might have made of the current state of affairs here.
Well, I think it'd probably be in total agreement with what we've been doing collectively as a band, Good, the Bad and the Queen. It's too limiting to be Little Englanders. There's a whole world out there, and for me, for one, like to experience other countries and just be open-minded. Yeah. Rather than just turn my back on Europe, for example.
Noel Gallagher said that we should just get on with Brexit.
I think we should just forget about it. And the reason I think forget about it is because it was false from the beginning. Because people voted on something that wasn't the reality. Yeah. So really, it's null and void.
That's the only issue. That is the only issue that anyone who is being passionate about Remain is talking about. The idea whether we should actually remain or leave is something to be discussed properly now that we really understand what that truly means. Of course, and if everyone decides that but you can't make a decision based on nothing. Yeah. You have to have it. If we're going to use democracy properly, we've got to allow everyone the facts. It's as simple as that. So what does this tell us about the state of our democracy and the social issues of this country? Well, it tells you that there isn't a level playing field in education. So that needs to be addressed.
And also that it was not democratic to want a second referendum because that was kind of trampling on democracy. Because
I understand that point, but the thing is that the first vote, as I said,
democracy,
the first vote wasn't based
democracy.
on anything that was fact.
Yeah.
It wasn't fact that what people voted on. It was like a sort of propaganda issue of saying, it was like Gorbel saying, listen, if you vote for this, these people are going to be gone and we're going to get this load of money for the National Health Service. And that wasn't fact. That's not true. That's not what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's all very difficult, and to be honest with you, I just would like us all to forget about it. As you said, just forget about it. Never happened.
Well, that kind of...
We just close our eyes, all of us, and go, and then open them again. Never happened.
Well, that kind of brings me to the last question, which is kind of on Parklife, which is an album where maybe
Will Smith can build an huge, ginormous Men in Black
from the
stick.
the memory wiper.
Fly over, or take it on one of those big, transport planes, whatever, like those Russian big ones. Take it in there, bring it out, erect it right in the centre of the UK, like I don't know, somewhere like Birmingham or whatever, because it's quite high ground there, and then just. Pew. There you go. I did it.
With Parklife, you were kind of
solved the riddle.
you were taking a piss out of like Englishness and Britishness.
No. It's not. It's satirical.
Yeah, it's satirical, right? But there was like a sort of chippiness to it. Whereas,
well, I was quite chippy when I was that age. You know what I mean? I have mellowed somewhat.
Well, this is my question. So Maryland is, you know, more sort of melancholy. Does that reflect your different perspective?
Sorry, I'm being silly.
He loves it. Does that reflect your sort of different perspective over the two periods?
Oh,
Well, you can wake up one day and feel chippy, and you wake up the next day and you feel melancholic, and the next day you can wake up very angry.
So what I'm trying to get at is there less to be kind of jokey and chipper about now than there was then?
well, I was young. You are a bit more chirpy and chipper when you're young, or you should be. If you can't be it then there's no hope for you. Sorry to say that, but
so are you just more of a realist
enjoy
now?
it while it lasts, you know, because soon it will be different.
So are you just more of a realist now?
I think there are people in my life who probably disagree with that, but I would like to think I am. Well, no, I wouldn't like to think I am. I'd like to think I'm slightly madder.
Okay.
More eccentric than I was. Why not?
It's a good place to leave it. Thanks very much, guys.